Next, we have our new president. Yvonne is going to present something special for us. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you, Marilyn. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you. So, I kind of had to think a little bit about what I was going to say today and tell you about. Because last time I talked about my dad. So I thought, well, what could I talk to this group about that would kind of help them see some of the struggles that I go with on a daily basis in working with older people and working in the field that we all work in together. And one of the things that came to my mind this morning as I was driving here was I was listening to Barbara Walters. Barbara Walters is how old?
184.
112. Barbara Walters is 84 years old, and she is doing her last Famous People interview this week. And they were promoting it on the radio. And what they were saying was Barbara Walters is going to be interviewing
Yvonne Baginski.
Thank you, Miley Cyrus.
Oh.
I thought, Miley Cyrus? First I thought, who is that? And then I thought, Barbara Walters was what was she? What's she most known for? First newswoman news anchor. She broke the barrier for women. She was an incredibly forceful, wonderful newswoman. And to see her interviewing Miley Cyrus made me want to keel over and die right there at the wheel. And I listened to it because guess what she's going to talk to Miley Cyrus about? They did a clip. They did a clip of the interview to kind of tease us to want to watch it.
Women's rights.
No, they were going to talk about Miley's hair. She asked, and how do you like your new hairstyle? And I thought, oh, how times have changed. How times have changed, because I am a child of the 70s. I was a teenager of the 70s. How many here were teenagers in the 70s? Okay? How many of us had an experience of when society was rapidly changing and we were parts of that? Okay, how many of you here went to Woodstock? Okay, how many of you here have gone to Burning Man? How many of you here have smoked dope? Stand up, please. How many had it? Okay.
How many didn't inhale?
How many didn't inhale? We grew up in a different time. We grew up in a time when the society and the culture were changing in an opening, expansive way. It's not the same now, is it? It's a little different. Technology has overtaken. We had Kira show us the lights. And that's really the direction it's going into. We've learned about Facebook. But those of us who remember the 70s, what do we remember the 70s by? The music, right? The music. When we were high, the music was really good. But we've changed since the 70s. We've changed. And I had the opportunity to, I like my outfit?
Yeah.
Cute. It's really cute, isn't it? Well, this is what I wore this Sunday to the Emerald Cup here in Sonoma County. I dressed like this because I was going to a party afterwards, and my uncle, who's the manager for Canned Heat and Big Brother, those of you who remember who they were, had invited me to come to the Emerald Cup to check things out. Now, you know that I have been on the forefront in some places about talking a lot about medical marijuana and bringing it to seniors and having seniors look at it as an alternative to pain. Well, believe it or not, I don't smoke marijuana. It's true, I haven't smoked it since college. And I'm kind of a little nervous about smoking it because you see, when I was smoking it in college, it made me eat tremendous amounts of food. And I gained a lot of weight. And so I don't like that feeling when you can't get the pants on after the day of eating. So I haven't really smoked a lot of pot, and I've kind of stayed away from it. But I go out and I talk to people about the possibilities of using medical marijuana for pain and illness, and it works. It works for some older people. So I thought, well, I'll go to the Emerald Cup and kind of check things out, seeing what's new out in the field. But I had a party to go to afterwards that was a nice party, so I dressed like this to go to the Emerald Cup. Well, I kind of stood out. In fact, when I was walking up to the Emerald Cup, I was dressed, I had my red leather bag with me, so it's really cute. And as I was walking up there, some guys were coming towards me, and they looked at me, and they said, "Are you a real cougar?"
And you said?
And I said, "Thank God for television," because, you know, where else would they have known what a cougar was? So they were looking at me, and I looked out over this expanse of growers, because it was primarily growers, and people wearing tie-dye, and people with dreads, and I looked out over this expanse of people, and I thought to myself, this is a whole culture I'm totally not a part of. I am totally unaware of this culture, and this culture exists within this culture here. And it's a culture that's separate from me. So I really have been looking at this because my uncle, who was the manager of Canned Heat, and was at Woodstock, and who is he's 68 years old now. And my uncle is standing there with his peripheral neuropathy in his legs. He is it's very difficult for him to stand. He has diabetes. He has some of those chronic diseases that we're all familiar with. And my uncle uses medical marijuana, and he uses it quite liberally. And but he's the future. There's going to be lots of people in our world who are like us, who have kind of grown up through this period of time. So my uncle and I have been talking a lot about getting older and consciousness. Has anyone here done any work with consciousness? So we're talking a lot about work with consciousness and how we're going to expand our awareness and how we're going to expand our growth and how when we die, what's going to happen after we die. We're starting to have a lot of those conversations. My uncle recently lost his wife, who was 52 years old. And so we talk a lot about what happens after death. And so my uncle suggested to me that I go with him to hear Ralph Metzner talk in San Francisco at City Lights. And this was a few weeks ago, actually 2 weeks ago. And my uncle said to me, "Well, Yvonne, let's go see Ralph Metzner talk." Now, Ralph Metzner was part of the Timothy Leary, Ram Dass, and Ralph Metzner were all Harvard psychologists who worked with psychedelics back in the late 60s and early 70s. Ralph Metzner is now 83 years old, and he was giving a talk at City Lights on the ecology of consciousness. So I thought this is going to be very good. So I went with my uncle. He picked me up in Napa. We went together in his black Jag down to City Lights. We had to park in a disabled parking space because it's hard for him to walk. And we got in there and we sat right in the front row. And we sat in the front row and we sat down and we started a 4-hour lecture on the ecology of consciousness. And as we are watching through all the transformational states, much of which is based on Buddhist theology, my uncle said, at break time, let's go out. He wanted to smoke a cigarette. And he pulled out a silver, what it looked like one of those e-cigarettes, and he said to me, "Here, try this." And I thought it was an e-cigarette. And I took a long inhale. And he said to me, "Did you get enough?" No, what he said to me was, "Did you get some?" And I said, "I don't know, I don't feel like there's anything that went in it. What is this?" And he looked at me and he said, "Hashish." And I said, "It's been a long time since I've had hashish." And I sat there and I started getting really nervous. And I started getting really scared. And I thought, what's going to happen? What kind of food do they have here? I better make sure My point is that there is a difference in the way we look at things than the generation before us. And I have to get off the stage because I'm being warned. There's more to this story, but there's a difference in the way we look at things, and there's a difference in the way we experience things. And I want us all to really take a look at what we're planning and what we're hoping for the next generation, because it's not going to be the same as for the generation that preceded us.